Welcome back to the MMA Business Hour, everyone. In today's episode, we are going to go over the predictions and some betting tips for UFC 291 Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. Here we go. All right, UFC fans, let's get into the UFC 291 main card. I don't want to waste your time going over predictions and bets for some of the undercard. I want to get right into the main card of UFC 291. Let's do it. The card opens up with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Michael Pereira at 170. This is going to be a striker's dream. If you guys like hand-to-hand combat with no wrestling in the UFC, this is the fight for you. Let's see. The opening bet line so far is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson coming in at minus 210 and the underdog Michael Pereira plus 170. Whoo, man, this fight is going to be super exciting. I want to see Michael Pereira. He's a little younger than I thought at 29 years of age. We have to always take into consideration betting on a 40-year-old favorite, right? The betting odds are coming in at minus 210 on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who has the experience advantage. There's no, debating that. But Michael Pereira has looked a lot better as of late, for sure. He is an excellent striker. He's super unorthodox, and he's hard to figure out. But he's won his last 5 fights. I mean, he was going to beat Diego Sanchez too, but he landed an illegal knee. So his last loss coming in against Tristan Connolly back in 2019. But since then, he's got a ton of wins, especially that one over Santiago Ponzinibbio, who's an older fighter. So are we going to see the fight kind of play out the same as the Ponzinibbio fight, where there's a lot of back and forth? But I think at this point in their careers, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is a far better fighter than Ponzinibbio. He's got wins over Nico Price, who just got knocked out by Robbie Lawler, Andre Fajejo, and then Chaos Williams, which is a good win, and then Amadov, another good win. He won with rear naked choke. So this is a huge step up in competition. If that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson line creeps under minus 200, if we can get it in that minus 175, 180 range, I like Wonderboy Thompson. I don't know if Michel Pereira is going to be able to figure out Wonderboy Thompson. And he's not going to be the guy that I think is good enough. He's not going to be like Gilbert Burns that's just going to take Wonderboy down, mitigate all of his striking advantages, kind of hold him on the ground, and be a really boring fight. I think this is going to be a lot of crazy striking, a lot of wheel kicks and front kicks and flying knees and spinning back elbows. But I'm going to have to go with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to get the win here to open up the card at UFC 291. All right, UFC fans, let's move up the card to the second fight of the night for UFC 291. It's Kevin Holland versus Michael Chiesa. The only thing that really concerns me in this fight is Michael Chiesa's inactivity, because Kevin Holland, as we all know, fights more than everyone in the UFC. All right, the opening bet line for this fight, Kevin Holland is coming in at a minus 157 favorite, which seems pretty good odds to me, and Michael Chiesa is coming in as the underdog at plus 127. If we take a look at Michael Chiesa, he lost his last 2 fights to Sean Brady and Vicente Luque. Man, it's going to be tough sledding, I think, for Michael Chiesa. His inactivity is really concerning. Since 2018, he's only fought 6 times in the last 5 years. And Sean Brady, he got smoked by Malal Muhammad. Vicente Luque has also not looked as good lately. And then he's got wins over Neil Magny, Rafael dos Anjos, Diego Sanchez. I mean, that doesn't even count as a win. And Carlos Condit was a fucking million years old when he fought him. So, the RDA win's a good win. The Neil Magny is like the top 10 gatekeeper. If you can't beat Neil Magny, you don't have a chance to be successful at 170. But I don't know. I'm leaning towards Kevin Holland in this fight for sure. His ability to just get in the octagon all the time is super impressive. I like Kevin Holland's ability to, manage distance. And his takedown defense was actually, I know he got taken down and submitted by Khamzat Chimaev, but That was on, what, 1 day's notice. He wasn't really preparing for a grappler. And then he also has let's see what he's been done lately. 30 years old, 6'3". I mean, he hasn't looked as good lately, that's for sure. Let's see here. We got the win over Ponzinibbio. He lost to Wonderboy Thompson. He lost to Chimaev. He's got wins over Tim Means, Alex Oliveira, and then he lost to Marvin Vettori at 185. And then he lost to Derek Brunson at 185. So since he's coming down to 170, he's going to have a little bit better chance with these grapplers because Michael Chiesa is not nearly as big as the guys he was fighting at 185 for sure. Marvin Vettori and Derek Brunson are monsters compared to Michael Chiesa. So, I mean, Michael Chiesa's path to victory in this fight is taking it to the ground, using his really good jiu-jitsu. And we got to remember, Michael Chiesa used to fight at 155. So he's a smaller guy at 170 for sure. 6'1". That reach advantage for Kevin Holland is significant. 6-inch reach advantage. He's also 5 years younger. And he's a lot more active fighter. So I'm actually circling a bet on Kevin Holland at that minus 150 range. If it gets lower as the fight approaches next week, that seems to be one of the better bets on the card for me. I think I'm going to go with Kevin Holland to beat Michael Chiesa. And if Michael Chiesa loses to Kevin Holland, I could see Chiesa retiring. I don't know where he goes from here. I don't know if he'll get in the mix to be a top 5 fighter, a top 10 fighter at 170 if you can't beat Kevin Holland. All right, let's move on to the third fight of UFC 291. Fan favorite Tony Ferguson taking on the legendary Bobby Green. Here's the tale of the tape, everyone. Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Unfortunately, Tony Ferguson, his career has really had one of the most monumental downturns in the history of the UFC, going from one of the top fighters and that I think he had a 13-fight win streak to now losing his last 5 fights and all of them in pretty horrible fashion. I feel bad for Tony Ferguson. If he loses to Bobby Green, this could be another fight where it could be a potential retirement fight for Tony Ferguson. At 39 years old, his chances of being a champion or getting a title fight are over now. Now he's just fighting for money, and he's got his bell rung a bunch of times. He got the shit beat out of him by Justin Gaethje. He got front kick KO'd by Michael Chandler. It's been really hard to watch, especially because he's such a fan favorite. He's great for the sport. He was so fun to watch for all those years, and it's a shame he never had that Khabib match. He probably would have got smashed, but it would have been an exciting fight. When they were going to fight, probably 7-8 years ago now, he was a lot different fighter than he is today. Father Time has won the battle against Tony Ferguson, and this could definitely be his last fight. Real quick, we're going to check out the odds. Tony Ferguson's coming in at a plus 255 underdog, and Bobby Green at minus 325 could be a potential parlay piece because he should get it done. But Bobby Green, betting with Bobby Green there's always risk involved because he keeps his hands so low. If Tony Ferguson wants to win this fight, he's going to have to take it to the ground. His striking is not what it used to be. He's not this unorthodox fast fighter anymore. He's not his jab is slower, his hooks are slower, his spinning attacks are a lot slower. Tony Ferguson just is not the fighter from 8, 7, 5, even 5 years ago. All right, let's go back to the tail of the tape. All right. They're about the same size, coming in 5'10 and 5'11. Tony Ferguson has a significant reach advantage, but his striking has been significantly slower since, after that Justin Gaethje fight. He just has not been the same guy. It just seems like his motor skills are not firing on the same level that they were previously in his career. And the predictions on Tapology, 75%. I actually thought it would be higher than that. If we look at Bobby Green, he had that controversial fight with Jared Gordon where the headbutt KO'd him, which is really unfortunate because I think he was on the way to win that fight, which really sucks. But he got KO'd by Drew Dober. So we got to, laying down a straight bet at minus 325 on Bobby Green seems a little risky to me. I don't like betting huge favorites in the UFC at all, especially in that minus 300 range. You could put them in like a parlay piece if you want to do him with maybe like Wonderboy or something like that in a parlay and get like a little bit plus odds or like right around even money. Then he lost to Islam super fast. And then he's got a win over Nasrat and Ally Quinta. But before that, he lost to Fasiv and Thiago Moises, who are great fighters at 155. But I got to go Bobby Green here. It looks like this fight is happening at lightweight, it says. But man, Tony Ferguson, it's such a shame. I was always such a huge fan. That run he went on was absolutely epic, guys. It's a shame. If you guys are new to UFC, I mean, before, man, look at that slide. Nate Diaz, Michael Chandler, Beneil Dariush, Oliveira, Justin Gaethje. I mean, that's murderer's row. He's not fighting bums at all. He's fighting dudes that, Oliveira is a killer. To take Oliveira to do a decision was impressive, even though he had him in that arm bar and like broke his arm and he just wouldn't tap. Tony Ferguson is a savage. I hope he starts coaching because he can make fighters a lot better. That mentality, that fighter's mentality. Look at this win streak. Oh my goodness. Woo! Cerrone, Pettis, Lee, Dos Anjos, Venata, Barboza, Josh Thompson, Gleason Tebow, Abel Trujillo, Danny Castillo. They were never top of the line fighters, but nonetheless, winning 12, 13 fights in a row in the UFC is super impressive, guys. But I'm taking Bobby Green for sure to get it done, probably by finish. If you guys are looking for a good bet for this fight, for it not to go the distance, could be a potential bet there. But Tony Ferguson is super durable, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to bet on this fight at all. I might just stay away from it because there's too many variables. There's not like a clear edge above the bookies in this fight, so we'll see what happens. All right, on to the next fight. This fight is going to be absolute fire. We have the co-main event between Jan Blachowicz and Alex Pereira. Pereira is making his debut at 205 in the light heavyweight division. Let's get into the fight. Okay, man, I've been watching some tape on Pereira, and the only thing that concerns me with him is, man, he keeps his hands so low. And if he thinks Israel Adesanya has power, that Polish power coming from Jan Blachowicz knocks people into another dimensions, just as Luke Rockhold. But from a betting perspective, this is coming in at pretty much even money. We have Jan Blachowicz at minus 120 and Pereira coming in at even money. If we look at the tail of the tape, they pretty much have the same reach. He doesn't really have, Pereira is used to, especially at 185, having a significant reach advantage over his opponents that are not named Israel Adesanya. 80-inch reach to Blachowicz's 78-inch reach, 6'4 to 6'2. And Blachowicz is a brick shithouse, guys. He is super strong, and his keys to victory is like he can't get into this like ego battle with Pereira and try to strike with him. He needs to use his wrestling to set up his striking if he wants to throw strikes with Pereira. He needs to show him that he could take him down, and if Israel Adesanya can take down Alex Pereira, you sure as shit know that Jan Blachowicz can. Pereira has been training with Glover Teixeira, who we all know is amazing on the ground, so he is improving, but it takes years and years and years to get to the level that some of these guys are at. And Jan Blachowicz is an absolute beast. But I rewatched the Israel Adesanya fight, and it's a really slow-paced fight, man. And he mixes in the leg kicks a little bit, but he's pretty much, to win this fight, he's going to have to kind of work behind the jab, set up a couple combinations to get close to him. And I think this fight is won and lost in the clinch. If Blachowicz can push Pereira up against the cage and keep him away from dancing around in the middle, because that's when he's most effective. When he beat Israel Adesanya the first time, he used this pressure to back Israel Adesanya up against the cage. And then once you're trapped there, he doesn't have the elusiveness or the footwork to evade some of Pereira's strikes. This is another fight that I'm not necessarily super excited about betting because there's not a clear-cut advantage. Blachowicz is obviously way better on the ground, but is he going to be able to get there? And we all know that Alex Pereira has straight death in his punches, but Jan Blachowicz has a great chin, man. He ate punches against Rockhold and Ankalaev, and he's got a great chin. And we'll have to see if he's able to march through that initial barrage of shots and get to the clinch, get his hands locked underneath of Pereira's butt, get him to the ground. Because once Pereira is on the ground, Blachowicz has really good top pressure. He's really good at keeping his weight balanced and keeping the guys on the ground unable to escape and get to a hip to kind of work and build up a base to get away. So that's his keys to victory for sure. But Pereira is super dangerous, man. But he is coming off a knockout loss, a vicious knockout loss. He got, straight Friday style knocked out. You got knocked the fuck out. He got smoked, dude, like super out cold. And when you're fighting a guy like Jan Blachowicz who has one hitter quitter power, man, that could be a bet that's really interesting is for Jan Blachowicz to win by finish. I have to see what the difference between knockout and by finish is. If it's super close, you might as well just go by finish. I tend to lean that way because there's a situation where Blachowicz, say he hurts Pereira and he falls to the ground and then he gets a submission. If the odds are, 25 basis points one way or the other, you might as well go with just the fight to win by finish for Blachowicz, because if he gets a sub, you're going to be pissed. So I like that bet. There's Blachowicz to win within distance. Seems like a good bet. And I don't know. And Pereira is not a guy who goes, 5 rounds, even though this is only 3 rounds. I don't know if it's going to go the distance here. But this is going to be an extremely exciting fight. But Pereira, dude, he's got to keep... I know it's hard to read punches. It's like Bobby Green. When these guys keep their hands super low, it's super hard to see that kind of uppercut jabs coming and the uppercut crosses, because they come from really weird angles, and it's hard to block those punches when they're coming from a really low angle. But you're really susceptible to get cracked. Like Bobby Green got smoked by Drew Dober when he was winning that fight. So you put yourself at a lot of risk when you march forward with your hands down. And he throws a lot. Pereira likes to throw a lot of punches from the hips. And if Blachowicz, who keeps a pretty high guard, is able to just, deflect some of those shots and 1-2 and get a nice shot on Pereira's chin, it might be a good plan to test that chin early, because Pereira just got smoked. And any guy coming off a flash KO like that, a real bad KO, I'm surprised Pereira's even coming back this fast. If I were him, I would have waited to the new year to fight again to really let that chin rest. But the winner of this fight is probably going to get a title shot next at 205, so we'll see what happens. So I'm going Blachowicz to win this fight. Wrapping things up, we have the main event of the evening, Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje 2 for the BMF title. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Okay, here we go. Poirier, Gaethje 2. This fight is going to be blockbuster for sure. The first fight was amazing. I watched it over again, and the things I took away from that fight is the leg kicks. Justin Gaethje chewed up Poirier's legs, man. Chewed him up. So Poirier is going to have to figure out how to mitigate those leg kicks so he could last the duration of the fight. I think it was in the 4th round when the KO happened, but Justin Gaethje went for one of those leg kicks again, and Dustin Poirier timed it perfectly and landed that left hand right down the pipe that rocked Justin Gaethje, and he was able to come in and get the finish. Justin Gaethje is a super one-dimensional fighter. He has leg kicks, he has a strong overhand right, and he finishes combinations every single time with the left hook. That's Justin Gaethje's game. He's going to come at you with leg kicks, get you off balance, and then when you think a leg kick's coming, he's going to throw, usually a 2-3-piece combination. But there is one technique that Justin Gaethje has been using lately, especially against Michael Chandler, is that boom uppercut right up the middle. He's had a lot of success with that uppercut. So I think that's a punch that he needs to put into his game against Dustin Poirier in order for him to get the victory. I'm leaning towards Dustin Poirier to get it done in this fight. His footwork is better. He has way better jiu-jitsu. So if he does hurt Justin Gaethje, he will be able to get a submission. Justin Gaethje has no ground game at all. When he hurt Michael Chandler, he had a ton of chokes available. He had the front choke, an anaconda choke. He even had a Darce choke available, but he just never takes it. So the only way Justin Gaethje wins fights is by a long decision that is a huge war, or if he flatlines somebody. I mean, Justin Gaethje, his inability to use jiu-jitsu or his wrestling in his fights, really limits what's coming at him. And Dustin Poirier is training at one of the best gyms in the world at AT&T. I mean, Gaethje trains at a really good gym at Elevation Fight Camp too. Is really awesome. But his inability to add different wrinkles into his game makes him extremely limited. So that's why, for my money, I'm going with Dustin Poirier to win the main event and be the new BMF title holder at UFC 291. Let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts on the main card? Who you think is going to win these fights? And if you haven't yet, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys on the next fight. Peace!